90%, very high. 90% of the bike share is connected to public transit within 2 blocks. So the public transit ridership has also been at the highest level for the past 4 decades as well. Among the transit modes, the bus and heavy rail are the most popular modes in the public transit. So for this study, we're trying to look at the relationship between bike share and the rail transit, and then the heavy rail transit. So, yeah. So here is a list of the top rail transit system in the United States, with New York City subway being the we call it 800-pound gorilla, and followed by the Chicago L, Washington D.C. Metro, the Boston T, and San Francisco BART. So this graph shows the top bike share programs in the U.S. All programs has grown in recent years. The top 4 is City Bike in New York City, followed by Divvy in Chicago, Capital Bike Share in Washington, D.C., and Hubway in greater Boston area. So this list looks familiar. So the top 4 players in the bike share programs is exactly the same as the rail transit we have just shown in the previous slides. So knowing the top players in both bike share and the rail transit, this study is trying to find out whether there is a relationship or correlation between the bike share and the rail transit. So this study used the correlation analysis. A quarter-mile buffer was created for each bike share station, and if within the buffer any of the rail station were identified there, and then the Pearson correlation was conducted between the bike share trips and the rail transit ridership. So here is our the data source for our study. 2015 data were obtained from these bike share programs and the rail transit authorities. These are the GIS maps for the bike share stations and also rail transit lines for the 5 cities in this study. So this table listed the total number of bike share stations, and the number of bike share stations has the real station within its quarter-mile buffer. Here are the scatter plots, shows that the total annual trips for bike share and the average daily rail transit ridership for the bike share stations that has the rail stations in its buffer. As you can see that Washington, D.C. and Chicago has a stronger correlation than the Boston and San Francisco. Washington, D.C. This is scatter for Washington, D.C. This Chicago. The previous four scatter plots has the same scale. However, the New York City has a separate scale for the scatter plot. The reason being that with the extremely high ridership for transit for Chicago or for New York City, all the other four cities would be all scrambled at the bottom of the graph. So New York City is separated out to look at the trend. So here's the results for the correlation analysis. So all five cities have, each of the five cities have a positive correlation between the bike-share trips and transit ridership. However, Boston and San Francisco are not statistically significant at 5% level. The five cities collectively showing a statistically positive, statistically significant positive correlation, as you see the bottom is the five cities together total. So conclusion of this ongoing stage of the study, it shows that it provides some evidence that there's a strong positive correlation between the bike share trips and the transit ridership. The study also indicates that if you by increasing the number of bike share within a quarter-mile buffer of real station would help increase the transit ridership, and vice versa. This study hopefully also trying to shine some light for reduce the traffic congestion and also the increase the transit ridership or help the transit ridership decline in some of the cities. Thank you. I think that's all my presentation. Thank you.